There are many special methods, so let's highlight a few other more. The bool, contains, and format ones. The bool dunder is mainly if you would like to be able to express your object as a true or false. If you want to do that, then you override the bool function and start to use some logic to express that. For example, in the myBear class, I decided that if both the first and second are 0, then this is false. Otherwise, this is true. Please be careful. Make sure that you are returning a Boolean function, a Boolean variable, because if you didn't do that with the bool call, it's going to fail because it expects a Boolean value. And also try to be consistent. Remember that what is in Python that is false? The 0 value. Empty data structures like a dictionary, list, string. So define something that makes sense for the people. Don't surprise them that the bool function is counterintuitive. So be consistent. The second one is the membership. Remember, we have the in. Let's say I would like to check if something in my data structure. Then I need to define the contains function. Item here could be whatever. It's up to you. So for now, for simplicity, I'm checking if 2MB, 3, 4, and I'm just verifying if first is the item, second is the item. It's up to you. Please observe that many of the membership methods, I don't do any checks. Maybe you have to do. It depends on the context. For example, here I assume that you know what, in the contains one we don't need to do anything. The equal is enough. Maybe in another scenarios you need to check, is it the type that I expect? If not, then return the not implemented constant. The third one, which is rarely used, I would say, is the formatting function. Do you remember the date function? We used to call the date function with a format function. You can also, if you have to, you can format your object. So to do that, you override the format function and pass some format specific. If you notice something like the date function is a bit complicated representation. This is what typically happens with the parsing. You have to agree with your team about specific instruction for the parsing. Then you have to decompose it here and parse it. It depends on that. It's going to be hard. I'm here just generating a very artificial example. I'm passing a time date format actually. I'm passing it internally to some time object to format it. If you pass nothing, it's going to pass empty string. Otherwise, it's going to pass the provided string. This is very artificial. I'm just showing you how to pass a format function. As I said, there are many dunder functions. We learned a big deal of them. Let me give a few highlighting to some of the other things. There is what we call the hash function. Remember, when we created our dictionary, we stressed that the object has to be immutable. What if I am defining my own object and I would like to use it? One way to do that is through providing a hash function. The hash function eventually is computing an integer that is going to be used in a specific way by the dictionary. The details of how to create a good hash function is mainly should be part of the data structures course to understand why hashing, why do we need it, and how to do it in a proper way. Observe that the built-in objects like mutable like integers or string like Mustafa, they have already hash function for them. So when we would like to implement our own hash function, we actually make use of the hash function of the internal objects. The second thing is about the new dunder function. We used to implement the init. Actually, behind the scene, there is also another one called new. This one will be called before the init. So the new one is the one that creates the object, but the init is the one that will be used to initialize the object. Sometimes, think like a pickle object, for example, loading something. The new can be used to create the object and do some specific logic. This is more of an advanced scenario, but I wanted you to know that before init, there is a new that is called to do some creation. There is also the enter and the exit. I think this is enter with E, not I. The enter and exit method. Remember the context manager, like with open some file. This with open thing is related with the enter and exit function, so we can implement them to do some context managers. And also there are ways to make an object iterable, like next and iter. We learned that with a set item and get item, specifically get item, we can do in a narrow scenario, we can make the object iterable, but making object iterable and iterators is a big topic and an important one also. The next and iter can be used for that. This is just to be familiarized with more of the Dunder methods. That's all.